Hello, welcome back, everyone, to another episode here on the Adam Hazara Show today, here on a quiet Sunday night, February 2nd, beg your pardon, of 2025. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to the studio of my own bedroom, as always. And, of course, as always, we have a lot to talk about. More Lake Braddock hoops news, of course, both on the boys and girls side, even bigger on the boys side. Coming off a big week where they lost 3 of their 4 games this past week. Girls lost some games again, but has some interesting to talk about in terms of them. And also, we're going to be previewing their weeks coming up. Boys have some games versus Woodson and Alexandria City. Girls both same opponents as the boys, and a Friday game versus Westfield as well. Woodson and Alexandria City games are on Monday and Thursday, respectively. And, of course, on a call tomorrow will be yours truly, Adam Hazara. Tune into the Lake Braddock Student Broadcasting YouTube channel to watch that, as well as the home girls games on Thursday and Friday versus Alexandria City and Westfield. Of course, the boys game tomorrow versus Woodson. Big matchup over there, Patriot District. And of course, like always, before we begin, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and comment on the stream what you would like. And also, any questions for the mailbag can be sent to the Adam Hazara Show at gmail.com. That's all lowercase. Or you can tag the show on X at Adam Hazara Show. A and Adam is capital. So is the H in Hazara, NES and Show, like always. Or you could leave your comment right in the chat. So make sure you guys do all those things. Again, much appreciated by everyone who does so. Without further ado, let's get started here on episode 12 of the Adam Hazara Show. So first we're going to start off with some boys. And I'm going to say, wow, what a week for this boys team. 4 games in 5 days. And you knew just coming in where they were in the district standings. They were around, I think, 4th place they were coming into the district standings coming into the week, according to NovaHoops.com. According to the most accurate Patriot District standings. Shout out to Chris Jolly over there for doing all he does, all the standings. And you knew it was going to be a big week for the Bruins. 2 games versus West Springfield, a game versus Robinson and Langley. Now, the Langley game didn't matter since Langley's from a different district in terms of district standings. But again, it still matters in terms of momentum. And let me just say, Bruins should have won. Like I said last week, they should have won at least 3 out of the 4. And they lost 3 out of 4. 2 to West Springfield. They lost to Langley, but they beat Robinson. We'll get into all those games. We'll first start off with West Springfield, especially that first matchup. So, going into this West Springfield game, I think the Bruins have had an edge. I think they've been feeling like, okay, we're starting to hit our right stride. We just beat South County, who is our main rival. And by the way, coming into that game, the Bruins hadn't beaten South County since the 2020 district finals. They finally got their first win against them since then. They're on a 10-game losing streak coming into that game on January 24th. And, they were probably all hyped to say, hey, we just beat our main rivals. And we were carrying it, okay, we're now facing a West Springfield team that looks pretty weak on the surface, but can play close with some teams. And they were looking at the record probably saying, okay, they're 5-10 overall. We just beat a very good South County team. We faced tougher than this season. So they probably had all their edges on their backs. But the thing is, though, seemed like they all got complacent, got too comfortable with themselves over that weekend between that South County game and the first West Springfield game this past week. And I'll tell you why. So coming into that West Springfield game, of course, had a lot of great momentum. And they were starting off that game strong. Got out to a couple double-digit leads, like they were supposed to in that matchup. But then it seemed like that West Springfield started figuring them out. And it was after Coach Terry Henderson at West Springfield called him a timeout. It was like the second quarter, and he called the first time out of the game. And, the Bruins also get a kind of a timeout after that. And the Bruins were saying, okay, we're comfortable and all. And it just seemed like that first timeout that Coach Henderson took, Bruins talking on a bench, and, they were probably talking, yeah, we got this. We were also, it felt like all they were saying was, oh, we got this. We got this in a bag. Don't care if we take a timeout. They're not coming back. Guess what? Still the second quarter, because you know what happened? West Springfield all of a sudden came all the way back. They started hitting their shots. Bruins were turning the ball. Bruins all of a sudden, later half of the game, start turning the ball over. And Bruins on defense couldn't stop West Springfield from converting points on those turnovers. Lake Bragg struggled with that. And with that, West Springfield was able to come back. Now it was a very exciting game to late going. It was like back and forth. Game went to double overtime. But then a shot by West Springfield, Seth Pearson in double overtime with just a few seconds left, puts the nail in the coffin for the game. And let me tell you, with how up and down the Bruins have played this season, and that, any opponent can be tough. You shouldn't have been that complacent to begin with. And again, I think this is a fault on Coach Mitras. Because, here, let me tell you something. So in that first half, West Springfield takes timeout. Coach Henderson realizes that his Spartans are struggling. They need to get something going. And guess what? He took a timeout, good prep talk with them, and they got going. Here's the thing with Coach Mitras, though. Once West Springfield started rolling back, no timeouts, bunch of hesitation, no timeouts to turn around in the second quarter. And, again, you can't be saying, we got this in a bag. Like, even if it doesn't matter how bad of an opponent, and I don't care how bad opponent you're facing, even if it's the worst team in the world, and they somehow start coming back, you need to take a timeout, especially when you're desperate for wins in the standings right now. There's a lot of bay coming into this. You got to keep up your pace. And this is a Bruins team that has not been able to get on a good hot streak this year. So you needed to keep all those things in mind coming into this one. And it isn't until, West Springfield starts to come back, the Bruins decide to be, or Coach Mitras more so, decides to be conservative with his timeouts. Wait until it really starts to come into the third quarter. That's when he starts doing it. He starts until waiting after the fact that his players realize that we got complacent. You got to realize the moment that it happens. You can't wait. There shouldn't be any hesitation. And it's weird. He's been in the business for 20 plus years. And, you can't tell me that, your team starts to, play off par from what they did beginning of that first half. And, they, like I said, they were coming in complacent. And, West Springfield starts coming back. And you can't time them out. And you obviously saw it earlier this season. We saw it back in winter break tournament with Heritage. You didn't call a timeout. West Springfield started figuring the Bruins out. And it was around the second quarter. Heritage in that game started outpacing the Bruins. They started getting all these scores down, and Heritage kind of got a lead over the Bruins that game. That was a game that the Bruins could have won. That's Heritage, one of the better teams in the state this year. And they only lost by 2 points. That's that game situation where you're probably thinking, hey, had we taken a timeout there, around the second half, we probably could have, kept our momentum. And that's another example there. So it's kind of confusing to me to see why, we're waiting so late, to try to, use timeouts. Hello, the game doesn't start. You can't wait until the second half. They're coming back right now, not in the second half. You have to do it right in that moment, immediately. You cannot wait. So Bruins end up going to lose that game in double overtime, despite their best efforts. And here's the positive. They were, and kudos to them for realizing that they probably came into that game complacent. They were able to go and beat a Robinson team, in my opinion, that's much better than West Springfield this year. Much improved Robinson team, one of the much improved programs in the area this year. And they were able to go into that game with Robinson, who's very good, played close with the Bruins at Robinson in December. Bruins will beat him 49-43. And the Bruins actually came back a lot better. I think they realized some of their mistakes. We mentioned how they couldn't keep they kept maybe turning the ball over a little more than they would like have to done. And the Bruins recognized that on defense, if they couldn't close out the Spartans, when they gave up those turnovers. So great job by, Mitras there on the bright side that they were able to. And they were actually able to hold a very good Robinson shooting team from free to only 30 points, a team that is very dangerous offensively, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the area as well. You had, of course, Nate McComb, who's been great at blocks this season, getting him left and right. You had Xavier Maine, who's always been great, getting blocks. Nick Tarr from small forward was getting a lot of blocks. Bruins was dominating Robinson there. Robinson was having trouble scoring on near three-pointers. And, Bruins were able to take advantage of that and defeat Robinson by 25 points. So there you have that on Tuesday. So a great way bounce back there. And they weren't as complacent. They remained level-headed throughout the entire game. So good job there. But that Wednesday game versus Langley. So this Wednesday game here versus Langley, a little bit interesting. And this is where you kind of talk about, maybe you see Bruins, okay, they beat a good Robinson team, beat a very good team that's been a big district rival to them this year. And now they can have some momentum going up against another team, big momentum, from Liberty District and the Langley Saxons. Games at Langley. And Bruins, unfortunately, were not able to cap off the win in that one. 70-56 they lost. Kind of surprising by the score it was. Now, I don't really think by far Langley has that dominating of players. There are a couple guards that they had were really good. But again, I don't think it should have been, I was not expecting it to be a double-digit plus point loss for the Bruins. And, certainly they probably could have played better defensively that game. And I think that does kind of have to do with the fact that maybe they had free games in back-to-back days they had to play. You don't really see that often. The only time you're probably going to see that is in a winter break tournament. But the reason for that is because that Monday game versus West Springfield was a makeup game of a game that was supposed to be played on January 8th, but then it got moved because of all the snow we had that week when school was closed, and we almost got 3 weeks of winter break out of that. So that's why that game got moved to that Monday. And so obviously that's out of the Bruins' control right there. But I said, maybe if it was, going to be either Robinson or Langley. I guess Langley, that game doesn't really matter as much because it doesn't affect you in the district standings. But I think, but you should have beaten West Springfield, I think, both times. Friday didn't do the best job. It was a little bit of a lower scoring game, but for Bruins, couldn't seem to figure out themselves there against West Springfield. And this is, those two games, Bruins could have very well won. 2 games that they needed to win to get momentum. I think out of, the Robinson game, of course, was big because Robinson was also kind of on the verge of being in the upper half of the district standings. But now the Bruins have lost some ground. Now you're going into tomorrow facing arguably the district favorites in the Woodson Cavaliers, who've already blown you out 74-48 back on January 10th. Of course, you have Kalen Chilton, the sophomore phenomenon, who has an offer from West Virginia to worry about, one of the best guard prospects in the state in a class of 27. You have other experienced players, Theo Burke, Nolan Bago, Will Taylor, you have to worry about as well. Very well-coached Cavaliers team led by Coach Craig, of course. It's been there since 20 years ago in 2005. You got to worry about. So that'll be a tough matchup at Lake Braddock. Pretty sure it'll be a lot of pressure on the Bruins. It's at home. When I tell you, when Woodson has a massive student section, they're probably going to pop out. They're going to pop out to that game tomorrow. And the Bruins have actually been a lot louder. A lot of the football players and the baseball players been out on the Bruins side of the student section, cheering their Bruins on. Woodson side, they come out a lot too, so it should be a really loud game there. Probably a lot of pressure on the Bruins to try to win this game. I don't know the odds. I mean, I guess it'll be a bit interesting to see, but I think this game is really going to be in Woodson's favor. Just the fact that, the Bruins, I don't think it was a matter of them playing badly. I think they were just simply outplayed by Woodson. I think Woodson was a much better team, and I think that they're kind of missing a little bit of something in the defense that other teams have had against the Cavaliers this year. I know teams like Robinson and West Potomac have played close with the Cavaliers this year. But for whatever reason, the Bruins, you kind of question, like, why are they losing by 28? Why are they losing 30 points? I don't I think for some of these teams are facing just outmatching them. And I say, earlier in the season, the Bruins are kind of revived. And, Bruins basketball is back on the boys' side. It's back in the sense that they're much better than they were last year. They're not the 3-20 season that they were. A lot of it had to do with because of the fact they had a lot of injuries, I heard. And so, obviously, it's going to be a factor. And, they have gotten healthier. Clete Cash and Walker Mitchell, two of the football defensive backs that come into the season. Coach Beecher said, two guys who were looked at to be starters for Bruins. In fact, Clete Cash is a 3-year varsity guy for him now. They're recovering from injuries in the football season. They're coming back now. So Bruins seem to get healthy. Riley Peterson, something I think was going on with him. He didn't play, I think, in a few games this week for Bruins off the bench. He's kind of their inside depth there, someone who Bruins are missing, but he's fine. He's not injured. I think there was something else going on with him. I don't know what it was, but you have that. Just wanted to say that real quick just so you guys know. But yeah, Bruins do have Walker Mitchell and Clete Cash back, so it'll be interesting to see how they can perform down the stretch. I know Clete Cash has done really well. Has had some really good scoring games, especially last week, and then his debut game against South County. But here's the thing, I want to also mention that South County game. That was a Stallions team that they were facing at zero backcourt. Yusuf Washington and Elijah Eccleston were not playing. Two all-district guys for the Stallions. Two of their key seniors that they have this year. They were not playing. I think they're hurt right now. I know Eccleston's been hurt for the whole season. Washington, I know, was healthy. I think he got hurt too with something. So obviously, the Bruins had to say, well, you obviously got to realize, who you played was kind of not up to their full strength. We've kind of seen this year for Bruins. Day one that could pose a challenge. They say, we blew them out on maybe except for that Robinson game this past week. But if, you see a team that they've blown out a lot but outside of that game, maybe, they've beaten by double digits at the very least, like Battlefield during winter break. They're missing a lot of their key players. The Stallions team, again, is their whole backcourt. They couldn't really get off a lot of shots because of that. They're usually a really good shooting team. But, of course, after guards, it was a lot harder for them to do so. And so, for that, the Bruins had to keep that in mind and be like, well, we didn't face a team at full strength. So, we still, they should have still remained level-headed there in that sense and just said to ourselves, hey, we didn't play a team out, this team wasn't at full strength. There's probably some things we could have done better. We need to remain level-headed going into this one because we know that what we face, what we'll be facing is probably going to be, these games are not going to be as easy as that South County game because they were injured. These other teams are more healthy, and they actually have players who can, all their regulars who are good, and they can actually play and keep the game close at the bare minimum. So you got that going on. So Bruins, a week that they should have capitalized on. Now they're much kind of lower in the Patriot District standings now. Again, that Woodson game is going to be tough tomorrow. And then Thursday game versus Alexandria City that, that was an Alexandria City team that they beat by 28 points, 75-47. I believe back on January 14th, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that the Bruins could beat AC there. And then coming into the last week of the season, they faced West Potomac Fairfax as two big games there will be a little bit tough. Fairfax has been really slumping. They've lost a lot in the second half, but they still have a good defense that can play you well. So that game was close, even with when the Bruins played them back on, I believe it was either January 20th or the 21st. I believe it was January 21st that they played them at Fairfax. It was a good win. Good game to watch. And of course, West Potomac is very good now, and they just got stronger as Chris Morrison, one of their Bishop O'Connell transfers in the offseason, actually came back late season. He's going to provide that West Potomac offense boost. Has kind of struggled. West Potomac's been really good defensively, too. That's why they've still been kind of up there in the upper part of the Patriot District standings. And, Morrison being back is going to help out well on both sides of the ball there. He's an all-district guy for him last year, carried him to the state tournament and a regional title. So West Potomac is always dangerous in playoffs. Look out for them. But Bruins still have some important games here. Down the stretch, they need to, so we'll see what they can do. Woodson game tomorrow, going to be really tough. I think he'll honestly say it would be a miracle. They win that one. I think they'll probably win versus Alexandria City on Thursday, the 6th. And we'll talk about more next week on next week's episode. So, we have that going on. But again, some interesting news come out for Bruins, and can they finally get on a good streak with only 4 games left in the schedule? We will see if that they can turn that into some momentum going into the postseason and qualify for a regional tournament this year. I think they will, but they have to guarantee themselves that they would have to get at least the 4th seed. So that's really, or even a 3rd seed would be good. I don't know if South County's still hurt. I know that they were the 2 seed for much of the season up to this point. So even with them losing a lot of games up to this point, maybe a bit more wide open there. If South County's not healthy with Eccleston, Washington out. But, of course, it's going to open up the opportunity for a lot more teams to get up there and compete for that 2 seed. But I think the 1 seed is a lock with Woodson. So Bruins, probably at the very least challenge for the 4th spot. I still think that they have a shot at doing so. So you got that on the boys' side. Let's go over to the girls' side real quick. So fortunately, more losing on the girls' side this past week. Now on a whopping 15-game losing streak with losses to West Springfield twice. One at West Springfield and one at Braddock. And, of course, the Tuesday loss to the Robinson Rams. Game that I think everyone expected for Bruins to lose. I'm pretty sure Bruins expected all these games that the Bruins would have lost. But actually, they've actually kind of played quite surprising. Especially on Tuesday against Robinson. I believe they only lost by 15, 16 points, which is kind of impressive. Usually they would lose by 20-plus and against most of the state contender teams this season, like Robinson. But actually, they played the Robinsons pretty well. They actually had a lead in the first quarter. Bruins were kind of playing them tough. So that's an impressive sign to see there. Of course, Pacey Magnuson continues to be a stabilizing force for Bruins. Ever since she's come back from her early season ankle injury that kept her out the first month of the season. She's been great. Of course, they lost to West Springfield, I believe by between 15 and 20. They're scoring that one. But it was still a little bit surprising there. Bruinsville, on Friday, they did play West Springfield at home. That was actually a very close game. The Bruins actually seemed like if they were going to win that game, I think they had the lead throughout most of that game. West Springfield, though, started to come back, and, credit to Coach Reed for, being aggressive with timeouts, really pushing for a team to try to get a win. Even though Bruins are out of contention at this point, I think at this point, all they're looking for is just one win and try to end their awful 15-game losing streak. Coach Reed, I think, played the timeout game really well with the Bruins, was aggressive with them against West Springfield, wasn't letting anything up because, like I said before in a broadcast, no matter how good or how bad the teams they face, they're all posed a challenge to the Bruins. And, even with them at full strength now, even with Pacey back, they will, any team will play hard. That's what West Springfield did. And, even though West Springfield, I know, had a couple of players missing, I think, because of injury, Hannah Warstraw, their 6-foot center, And they're also missing their former all-district guard in Jalen Hillary, I think is her name. She was out, but they still had Kalina Raposa. They still had William O'Gore. It's great. Kareem James was great off the bench for him. For Coach Gibson's team over there. So they still had a couple tough players. But even if they're injured, Bruins will obviously take what they can get. Even, no matter how, good or bad the opponent is, they'll be happy they get a win. And the Bruins in that game, it seems like they're not playing a lot of their bench lately. As much as they have in previous games, especially in the West Springfield game Friday. The only player to come off the bench was Han Lee, who's been a Bruins starting one for most of the year, but now it seems like they're not putting her out there in the starting five as much because I know she has struggled quite a bit this year. They're putting Katie Lastra in a lineup who has had a nice touch with her three-pointers in there. They're having with DePaul, of course, Berger at the three, and then DePaul, I believe, at the two. Okay, Lasher playing guard as well, and of course, Emma Kajun at the five, and then Pacey Magnuson at the four. So you have them there. And then, it was a little surprising to see that the Bruins didn't really use a lot of their bench against West Springfield. I think for Bruins, the reason why they didn't come away with that win versus the Spartans on Friday game, they nearly won. It's pretty exciting. It's down to the wires. I think West Springfield eventually won by 4 points. I think the Bruins got kind of tired. Of course, they're playing all their minutes. Of course, again, trying to get that win. I think, with that, I think, you still got to have a strategy where, you're trying to keep your players healthy enough in terms of how much energy they have. So I think, maybe we could have seen maybe more of Elizabeth So off the bench that game. Maybe see Alina Burry, maybe at least another player or two, because, of course, you want to preserve them, and make sure they don't get too tired. So I think Bruins, if they do that, and I think they could definitely pull off maybe a win, sometime these next couple weeks. I think it's possible. I think they've kind of been coming around. Of course, it'll be tough, no matter who they face. They're facing Woodson tomorrow. It's a very good Woodson team. Probably not going to win that game. Friday, maybe versus Westfield. I know that Westfield team is struggling a little bit. Alexandria City is also struggling a little bit, but the Bruins lost to them. We've 62-39 a couple weeks ago. And back on January 15th, I think was the date they played that game. So you have that going on. So it'll be interesting to see how they can play versus the Titans that time. And, of course, maybe they have a chance versus Westfield on Friday. Charlotte Concord team, and I also play Fairfax final game at Fairfax on Valentine's Day. Game where Bruins lost 50-43 at Lake Braddock back on the 21st of January. That might be a game. See where Bruins come back. Maybe a lot stronger. And yeah, so I think the Bruins are kind of coming around and on the girls' side, and if they can manage that bench well. I know it's obviously you're probably not going to. Again, Coach Reed probably also not going for it because again the bench has had trouble this year. There's not a lot of depth on a team, and they're really trying to rebuild. And again, I think just even getting a couple of your other bench players out there who could maybe serve a couple minutes, give your starters a few minutes to recuperate, and I think the Bruins would have a good chance at least winning at least one more game. I think even if they win one more game for a season is still going to be great for them. Shows them that they can pull off a win at some point. For the remainder of the season they have left. Of course, we'll also see if they start to see how much they play. Emily DePaul, the senior. She's been still starting getting a lot of playing time. Of course, Hanli was benched, but maybe, again, see if they might get Hanli in there, who's a sophomore, and Lasher more. Probably see her in there more. She's been great lately for three-pointers. If they trying to get to give more minutes to their underclassmen. So see if that happens. So be a very interesting week here to see, especially on the boys' side. See if they can capitalize momentum. Girls' side as well. Yeah, we're about 30 minutes in. Gonna sign off for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great night, everybody. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, share a video with a friend, and your questions for mailbag, email to the AdamHazera@gmail.com, or tag the Adam Hazera Show over at X again, capital A and Adam, capital H and Hazera, and capital S and Show, AdamHazeraShow@gmail.com, all lowercase. Contact one of those two for your question. So have a good day, everybody.